Tilt shift photography is cool. For the uninitiated, what tilt shift photography is talking about is instead of your image having one kind of flat plane of focus in it where everything in that is nice and sharp, we're tilting that plane of focus over a bit, and what that means is that in a frame like this, and it works really brilliantly for landscapes, I'll have a little narrow band of sharpness through the middle of the frame, and then everything in front of it and everything behind it is going to be dropping out of focus as if I was poking a macro lens into like a model railway or a diorama or something. It's a really easy effect to get. Lots of photo editing apps do it. The key is in the composition of your image. So we don't want to be shooting a flat frame like this. We really want to be as much as possible up over our subject. So if I lift my camera up here, I can get a bit more of an angle down on stuff. And I'm also going to shoot in HDR mode just to get a bit more of an exposure in there. I'm going to tap on the frame that I want, on the area of the frame that I want to be sharp. I'm going to shoot a couple of different options at different tilt levels. I'm going to try and get my horizon about 2/3 of the way up the frame. And once that's saved, I'm going to get into my image editing app to have a look at getting it perfect. So there's a lot of different image editing apps out there. This one happens to be free, my favorite price for just about anything. And if I hit tools there, I can see that one of the options is lens blur. Now, it's called lens blur here. It might be called toy filter or something stranger on your app, but that's generally what you're looking for. Here I can see that the default is this kind of radial filter, this circular area, which is not what I want here. But a quick tap and I get instead these tram lines, top and bottom. This is really what you're looking for a good tilt shift effect. Everything in this top tram line is going to be defocused, everything in the bottom tram line is going to be defocused, and it's what's in the middle that's going to be sharp. The key is that you want that area of sharpness to be narrow. You don't want it to be this kind of big area in the middle of the frame. You want it to be nice and tight, as if you were pointing a macro lens into a model. And so we'll tighten it up a bit. I might even rotate it just very slightly to match that line of trees that I have there. And then the last thing to do is to change blur strength. For my money, this is not an effect that calls for a lot of subtlety. You want this to be quite sort of in your face, quite a striking look, something that, you know, arrests people, stops them and makes them look twice at your images. So we're going to be quite aggressive with that and pull it up all the way. And when we hit the check mark, that commits that edit. So I'm going to try that effect on a number of different compositions. I'm also going to try the effect with varying degrees of strength. I'm going to change the angle of it. I'm going to change how narrow that strip of focus is. And then when I go back and look through my images, I'm going to find something in there that I really love. I'd always expect to see a good number of outtakes with this kind of tilt shift photography. It's such a marriage of editing, composition, exposure. You are going to need, as they say, to kiss a few frogs. This frame doesn't really work for me. It's not quite the effect that I'm after. We've got this nice soft foreground, I suppose, but then the horizon is perfectly sharp. And so where the focus begins to fall off is actually in the clouds, which don't have a lot of definition to them anyway. So that one is for the outtake pile. This one's a little bit closer. There's a bit too much foreground here, the kind of the same height that I'm at, so you don't get that full effect of angling down into a diorama or a model railway or anything. And I've also spotted that this horizon is still really sharp, really crisp, so it doesn't, again, just doesn't have the effect that I'm after. This frame is pretty much what I had in my head when I set out to take a toy style model image. The foreground is nice and soft there, and I've also caught a nice bit of drifting focus on that background just across the horizon there that looks exactly like I wanted it to. I've also put in just a little bit of extra colour into this frame just to make these kind of greens pop that little bit more, just to kind of push this image over the top into that kind of toy effect model railway style that I was looking to catch when I set out.